Hey, what's up? I'm Joel Madden, and this is Artist Friendly. On this episode, I'm talking to singer-songwriter, guitarist, record producer, and one half of the acclaimed rock band Dawes, Taylor Goldsmith. Let's go.
That's my kind. I don't want no bad times. I don't want to have bad.
Let's say this is our first time speaking at probably like at length.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's always like a party of our good friend Matt's or Hill's, and it's like, hey, good to see you.
Yeah.
But no. So
We never really got to spend a lot of time together.
Yeah.
But I'm a fan.
Yeah, right. Same. And I mean, like our mutual friends speak highly of you. So I'm looking forward to this.
I'm really, really happy you could come. But I think when I hear your music, do you write the lyrics?
Yeah.
Yeah. Your lyrics are, let's say, like, not just clever, but they're wise.
Oh, thanks, man.
And you have a way of saying things that, like, yeah, it just seems like wise.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, when I started, I just wanted to I was learning guitar. I was buying amps and stuff. And it's like, I just want to be able to be on stage with a microphone and just do that.
Simply.
And then, but yeah, I mean, like it was really about like, what's my path to just get to do the thing?
Right.
It wasn't about the work itself.
Right.
But as the years went on, and for me, it was like discovering, I think people had played me Leonard Cohen and Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell and like these like, quote unquote, like wise writers, but
Yeah,
I
like
was
poets.
Yeah. Like people that are offering more than just a like chorusy bop or something. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I like these like freakish players and these high singers, and just, I liked more the like acrobatics or something. And but then when those artists like that really landed, then it was all of a sudden was like, oh, I don't give a shit about any of this except for that. Then like being a writer was like the dream of all dreams.
This is why I love doing this show. I get to sit with someone that I've been aware of for a long time, been around. You're easy to be around, but I've, if anything, I think we do this as people.
Yeah.
We hold ourselves back from maybe having this conversation sooner than you coming on my show, which I'm really happy you did.
Yeah.
But I'm like, why didn't I just say that when I was at fucking Hillary's birthday or Matt's party?
It's a hard thing. I mean,
you go up to someone and go, hey, so you seem really wise. But then you just in 2 minutes, you summed up, you gave me an understanding of actually who you are. And of course, like I think I love Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people can do what he did now in a way that can be themselves.
Yeah. It's its own sport almost now. And it's like, if you're doing it, it's like, are you just doing Bob Dylan Fantasy Camp? And that goes for a lot of artists, or are you like trying to create your own space? And you're right, he's a potent flavor. So like, if you are going to indulge in that to any degree, like how are you going to maintain your own identity? And that's a fascinating thing.
But that's the thing that like, I love Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
I never did. When I listened to your music, I didn't think Bob Dylan.
That's great. That's awesome.
But then I hear you go, I love Bob Dylan. And I go, now I know what someone was aspiring to try and do was create something as important as what they were inspired by in the first place. And then I go, oh, because I think that your music is important. I think what you do is important, because it's like art is the good fight.
Yeah.
If someone isn't fighting the good fight and actually making art, it can literally all go away.
Yeah. And that good fight, even when you're in the fight, you can lose your sense of direction. It's easy to like see where you're getting your returns and just follow that. Like I feel like, I know, I'm sure you do too, like so many incredible songwriters that when they saw a certain quality of theirs, whether that was their angst or their depression or there's some sort of like just a dangerous component of their identity, they indulge in that because they get the best reaction from it.
They double down on it.
And that's not a path towards enlightenment. That's not a path towards like edifying your soul.
Like growth.
Yeah. It's not a path towards growth. And that's such a hard thing to like separate. There's so many of our heroes that were like, but they're great at what they do. And yes, they are,
and
but
they
like,
died.
Is that good for you? Or themselves? Yeah, some of them are dead. And so it's a fascinating thing within art of like, it doesn't have, and I'm not like some sort of like, old fuddy-duddy that's like, it has to be good intentioned. Like, I don't believe that either. But I do think that there's a responsibility, and we can at least be tangentially aware of what that is and we can all decide on where our line is, but I think it's something you have to be mindful of.
Actually, I'm so like glad we're having this conversation. This is exactly the kind of conversation I hope we'd have.
Yeah.
Because I talk about this a lot, and some from experience, but also like it's weird because I feel like I have had success as an artist or something that people would call success.
Yeah.
You know, but like I don't know if I would call it.
Wow.
I would call it success, but I would also call it an experience.
Now, is that because the goalpost just kept moving? That like you would just like, no matter how big the show got or how big the record got, you're like, yeah, but look at that band.
I think it's what you're saying. Yes, but I think it's what you're saying. I think it was like became a search because I started to get a result and then I started doubling down on things to get the same result. And then if you're being really honest, that doesn't fulfill you.
Yeah, yeah.
It's super complicated and complex because there's the reality of life and living, and then there's the reality of what it means to be you.
Yeah.
And so they're like kind of different.
Yeah.
Because then like the reality of like making money and paying bills and doing this and doing that, that's reality.
Yeah.
And that's like one part of your experience.
And there's no shame in seeking out that audience.
And doing what you have to do that. I had a very complicated relationship with that side of life because I came from a really like was poor. My parents didn't have their shit together.
Right.
So security was a really valuable thing to me. Like it was something like the only thing I wanted.
Yeah.
And so you kind of limit yourself to being this really like linear person who only wants security.
Yeah.
But then when you get to a place where you have it long enough and can hold it and it becomes normal, then you, I think, start to think like, well, no, what else do I want to actually experience in life?
Yeah.
And what's the cost of that?
Yeah.
And then going off on some journey, something like that. But what you're saying is exactly what I think. It's like artists can actually have a real moment where they bleed on a record, some angst or some pain, and then everyone's like celebrating it, and then they start to replicate it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, at what cost, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they just get big, and then they die.
Yeah. Like sometimes there's some artists that I love that when it's so raw that I'm starting to feel like, am I enabling someone who's like unwell?
Right.
Like
just as a fan. Get well.
Yeah. Like someone that like just as not people that I know, just like as a fan, am I cheering you on at your worst? Because you know the language so well. And that's a really hard thing to square. Like, but again, it's like, in some of these cases, those people might put it all in the work and go home and have a totally normal adjusted life. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that story very often, but then there's, so it's a very fascinating line to draw. And so for me, I became obsessed with writers, but I also became obsessed with like the context of their lives. And I looked at like, I always loved Bruce Springsteen, but like, as it went on and as he like, you read his book and you watch any number of his like hundreds of documentaries he releases now, and he has this like this voiceover narrative, it seems like someone that did the work on a human level. And I'm such a fan of that now. Like it's almost like that's my favorite song now of his. Like it's and so that I've started to like romanticize that component of like who made it out alive and who's thriving because of it. In a way that even feels reactionary because we always like would maybe wince at that story when someone was able to like be an adjusted, normal, happy person. We're like, well, that's not as exciting as the dead guy. And so like,
who died a horrible death.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all know that story too much. And when you're really close to it, it's really upsetting. Like some people like will talk about like, oh, look at these troublemakers in culture. Isn't that fun? Isn't that funny? And it's like the people that know them are all heartbroken right now. Like it's troubled. Not, it's not a beautiful, funny, charming thing. So so I became like, who's towards the finish line and seems like they have a good perspective. That became a big thing I was looking for.
I don't know a lot about your marriage, right? Mm-hmm. But you're married. Yeah. And you have kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only people that can do that for real are people that are doing work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's work.
Yes.
You have to get up every day and you got to do the chores, whatever those chores are in life, like show up and be a real person.
And just like, and all of a sudden, especially when you're in the arts, like it is inherently a selfish career path that we all went down where we get to indulge in like us getting to play with our toys. Like, and I love it. And I feel so unbelievably lucky that I get to do that. But when other kids are coming around, all of a sudden, like you are like the least important person in the room. And that's a relief. That's something that's really beautiful, but it's also for a second there, it's an adjustment.
Yeah.
And so if you have been used to being on stage in front of thousands of people with like them like screaming and reaching for you and wanting to know you or wanting to be you, and then you're like, wait, I have to wake up at what time and clean up what? Like, it's not that was my experience. I've never been like selling out Madison Square Garden or anything, but whatever level you're on, when you're in this world and then you switch to that real world that you're talking about, it's just it takes some thinking. It takes some real adjusting.
And humility of like, so to be a member of a group of people where you're, you know, I'd say being like a dad is like the greatest thing ever. Yeah. It's also like you can feel at times, especially being like a lead singer and then being a dad, you could feel like this is a thankless job. Right? Like you could have that. I've said that before. Yeah. But then what I've learned is like, no, you think you deserve a thank you for doing what you're supposed to be doing. Yes. Yeah. Which is just being there and taking care of these humans and being a partner to your wife who's literally given birth to these children. Yeah. And gone through hell and like, and also creates a home and makes things nice and brings order to a family life that if I was in charge of the family life completely, it wouldn't have the order it has. Yeah. And I've come to depend on that. Yeah. And appreciate that. And also like just do my job and then also do the work. I go to therapy. Yeah. Because I want to learn how to communicate. Yeah. So that I can hopefully I hope the suitcase of issues that my kids take into the world with them that they have to work out is light, not heavy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Well, I'm going to have something. Yeah. Right. But I hope it's like a handbag, not a fucking suitcase. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so that's what I've got kind of gained, insight over. My kids are teenagers now and like, they're cool. It's great. You just have to show up. I think you come back to the entertainment or music or art or whatever of it all with exactly what you're saying. Like, I'm not as excited to watch a train wreck. Like, I don't think you guys, everyone that's clapping or commenting, or you're creating these gods of sorts, right? I think it's like human nature of like, it's not real to you. So you can throw stuff at them and you can say things about them and you can laugh or cry or whatever feeling you think you have. None of it's actually real. Yeah. It stops being a real person. It's just a projection. And we're celebrating a very weird thing. I mean, there is something that's intoxicating about it. Like when something like that is going through the news cycle, like in the music circles, I'm a little like, what happened next? But when you really drill down and think like, this is a real human being with people that are close to them, it just, it becomes a different thing. And I mean, like, and that goes even for when that makes me love your music even more. I appreciate that. But I mean, it goes for even like, I remember telling my, my therapist, like when I was, whatever, we all have these moments of self-doubt and like lacking some sense of self-worth. And especially in the days of social media and the internet, where you can, like, any second you want to, you can very actively compare your life to someone else that's doing a similar thing. Easier than that should ever be. And so it's easy to find myself in these, especially when you're like adjusting into fatherhood and post-pandemic or like there's so many factors that were going on for me. But in this moment of like weakness with talking with him and saying like, why can't we be at this level? Why aren't we executing this much material being released or this many tickets sold or this whatever? And he's just like, who you are, I feel like reveals itself whether you want it to or not. And no matter how, and maybe that isn't, I don't know. I maybe a lot of people disagree with that and for good reason, but I just feel like so much of it is determined. And I feel like with me, while I might say like, I want to go play 3 sold out nights at Red Rocks and I want to go like do all these things. And someone said, cool, are you willing to leave your family for 6 to 8 months and play like 5 shows a week and grind on a level that you don't grind on anymore? I might be like, oh no, I'm not willing to do that. So it's like, well, there you go. Like that's a part of this. Like, I feel like, and I'm trying to like tip my hat to the people that have created that kind of empire. So I'm not trying to judge them. I'm not saying, but I do think that
where the chips have fallen, granted, a lot of luck goes into it, and I don't discount that. But where the chips have fallen for my life, like as time goes on, it's like this feels right for me.